Welcome to OverTime, the podcast. OverTime is a podcast dedicated to all things watches, particularly in the micro-brand and affordable range. I'm Praka, and this is my co-host, Justin.
We are two watch enthusiasts based out of Perth, Western Australia. Join us as we discuss our thoughts on new releases, share our personal experiences, and offer our insights on building a collection.
Whether you're a seasoned enthusiast or just starting your journey, OverTime will keep you entertained with informative insights and casual conversations.
Let's get started.
Justin, how you going, mate?
I am fantastic on this Thursday night. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Had a short day of work today, and it's been a good week. How's your week been?
Yeah, good. We caught up for coffee on Tuesday, I think it was, before the rain hit, and it's been raining ever since. But it's been a good week. We're coming into Friday, so it's always a good eve to be on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, you're right. It's been pretty rainy here in WA, and but I've been enjoying the all the World Cup games. The Women's World Cup games. Been trying to catch as much of them as possible with the kids and the family. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, it's not often you see Australia or even Perth on the big stage at all. So it's been cool to see some stuff pop out of Perth. Definitely
is huge. So I'm a big fan of the round ball game. So yeah, it's always good to see. All right. Well, look, let's get into our episode today. And again, this episode is a very special episode. We've got another guest for our listeners today. And look, we're very excited to have this guest on board. I'd like to introduce Kyle Schut from Straton and Signum Watches. Hi, Kyle.
How's it, guys? Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
No, thanks for coming on. We're very excited for this. Start of every episode, we like to do a customary wrist check. So as the guest today, what are you wearing today?
I'm sporting my sort of the new Signum Siege, which has a red pearl dial. And that recently launched. So I thought it would be appropriate to wear that.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm a huge fan of that watch. It's titanium, is it? Or is it steel?
It looks like it's titanium, but it's steel and it's sandblasted. So it's got that titanium look, but it's also got the clear DLC coating. So it can take a bit of a bashing without being scruffed up.
Yeah, cool. And the range of dials on that when it released, amazing. Doing some cool stuff there.
Yeah, sort of a playful field watch design. So as Signum is, it doesn't really conform to anything. So it will take a sort of genre and make a play about it. So yeah.
I like it. Yeah, very good release. I like that you've made a case which I say looks like those titanium, those sort of dull, but that bee blasted finish. It definitely makes it more robust, doesn't it? A proper field watch. You're not really worried about.
Yeah. Exactly. You guys?
Yeah. It's also cool to see something unique. That kind of case shape and look and dial size isn't something you see every day. And it's cool to see it in a live video opposed to just being on the website in photos. So very cool. So I guess for myself today, as I'm coming off of about a 80 or 60 to 80 watch cull over the past few years, kind of redesigning my collection and whatnot and building back up. I went with the Straton today as well. So you and I had a couple of small chats in the past. As I've said in previous episodes, I've struggled with the purchase of online watches without being able to see it and hold it. And over the last, I'd say 7 months to a year, I've kind of been able to make that dive a bit more in. When thinking about Straton, I wanted to go square. A Tag Heuer Monaco is something I've owned in the past and absolutely loved the square on that. But for some reason, I've always been unsure about square cases going forward. But yeah, I went with the Quartz Yacht Racer in the white, pink, and blue, and it has been incredibly fun to wear this week. Great example of an everyday playful watch.
Yeah.
It's exactly why I made it.
Yeah, it wears so well, hey? I was fortunate enough to try it on Tuesday as well, and there's that tonneau case. Or is that what you call it? The little tonneau case turtle?
Tonneau.
Tonneau. Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, wears really well.
Yeah, and I think with I've not really been had too many chronographs in the collection over the years. It's mainly been dive watches, and I think with chronographs, you see a lot of lot of chronographs out there that pay some sort of nod to something, and you can't really tell. But with Straton's style, you can definitely see what you're nodding to and what the idea behind it is. So loving it so far. I even went for a run with it. I didn't think I'd ever say I went for a run with a chronograph. Usually it's a G-Shock, but I did, and it was comfy. And the crystal, that kind of look that you get from the side when it distorts is beautiful.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's cool. Yeah.
Sweet. Praka, what about yourself?
Cool.
What are you wearing tonight?
I have wore it all day actually. It's a Christopher Ward C63 Sealander GMT. Hard to tell. I've got it on a rubber strap today. It's, as we said, it's been quite rainy, so I felt like it's appropriate for the weather. And look, it's a great GMT. Obviously it takes inspiration of the Explorer 2, but just makes it its own. And I've been really enjoying it since I've got it, and it's been away with me a few times as well. So it definitely, it's making a mark in my collection.
Cool.
All right. Well, wrist checks out of the way. Let's get into it. Hey, so look, Justin and I, Kyle, have got plenty of questions today. So we've even got a question in from one of our listeners. So I think, Justin, please kick us off with your question today.
Yeah. So first question would be from myself would be, I'm assuming you don't just wake up one day and go, I'm gonna make a watch, I'm gonna make a brand. So what made you start a micro brand, and the general journey of how you got to where you are with the businesses at this point in time?
Sure. So I think my journey started off in around, I can go all the way back to when I was 11 years old or 12 years old, when I got my first watch from my grandparents, which was a Lanco dress watch, quartz. I still got it somewhere here in the collection. I always loved watches from sort of that young age, and when I moved to Switzerland in 2010 for family reasons, I wanted to start a business. And even though I was working, I was doing sort of day-to-day sort of visualization and manifestation. What can I do, and sort of put myself out there, and always read, do something that you love. So in 2012, I launched my first business in the watch industry, was where I was buying unknown brands, sending them. So I'm originally from South Africa, and I moved to Switzerland, and my parents were still in South Africa at the time, and I thought I found a loophole or a possible business where I would buy unknown watch brands, and there was a sort of auction website in South Africa called Bid or Buy, and I would put the watches on there, send them to my mom, and do the adverts and start selling. And within a really short space of time, within 3 months, I was doing about 250 watches a month.
Wow.
It really it took off like a rocket ship in a big way. And I was doing that business for about 2 years, and I wanted to start my own brand, but the risk of having to invest, around 50K into a basic quartz watch production, without having any customers or any, brand feedback, etc., was too much money for me to risk. So at that time, I sort of focused on the watch selling business of other brands, but then the rand value tanked towards the dollar and everything else. It lost like 50% of its value over that period of 2 years, and slowly ate into my profit margin. So I was looking for other ways of how I could make my own watch brand work. And that's when I discovered crowdfunding. And crowdfunding at the time when I started looking, the only possibility for a Swiss creator or a person based in Switzerland was Indiegogo, which wasn't sort of the best platform of the two. Most people were going to Kickstarter. And this was in early 2015. And I anyway started the process. Straton was the first brand that I created and launched, and I loved retro styling. I had a sort of a collection of 70s retro chronographs, not expensive ones, but sort of ones that have the Valjoux 7733 hand wind and 7734 with the date. The hand wound versions back then, they were like $200-300 US a piece online. People were sort of they've almost doubled and tripled and quadrupled in price now. And I sort of always loved that styling, so I combined the love of that, the love for my 1977 Alfa Romeo Alfetta GT, which I still have today, and the first watch, the vintage driver chrono, which was inspired by the tachymeter of my car and a bit of retro influence. Kickstarter opened up to Swiss creators in May of 2015, I believe. And that's when I said, okay, now's the time to do it. So I shot the video myself, took all the photos myself. I was on a shoestring budget, $2,000. Even the prototypes, because how I did it was I created a first round of prototypes with movements, and I got them and I posted them on Facebook watch groups. I think it was only 2 at the time I was a member of, and I got some feedback, and I made changes to the logo, and I made some small changes to the dial with some feedback that I gotten from the members. And I didn't have enough money to afford to redo everything with movements, etc., and send everything back and that. So they literally made the next round of prototypes without movements inside and just glued the hands to 10-10.
Awesome.
So literally the watches in the photographs, they don't have movements in them.
It probably made it easier when you're taking all your photos, right? So you don't have to keep resetting your hands.
Exactly. you know the qualms and struggles of every launch since then. It's always resetting, taking out, resetting. Yeah. So yeah, really on a shoestring budget, and I think it was right timing. I hit the scene sort of before the massive wave of, brands that started to launch on Kickstarter. So I think it was a combination of right timing, sort of product story. I think people could relate to the story because it was, genuine. It wasn't some made up story. It was about a guy and his car and his love for watches. And, for example, as I said, I shot the video and I was riding in the Swiss mountains. I think it was an iPhone, I don't know what was in 2015, probably like an iPhone 5. Yeah, and I bought some little stand for it, and I placed it on a corner of one of the turns, and I got in my car and I pushed record and I drove down and I just left it there.
Awesome.
And it was fun. Now thinking back about how I all did it, and I wanted 15,000 Swiss francs, which is 15,000 US plus minus in 1 month. And I was completely blown away that it reached that goal within the first hour.
Wow.
And I still remember I was at my now wife's apartment in Munich, and I couldn't sit still. I was beside myself, just, watching my phone every time it went ching ching,
Yeah, I can imagine it's pretty unreal feeling. And I guess a credit to yourself, like that's around where my collecting journey started, was about 2016. I'd always kind of had a watch through high school, then went through a phase of having fashion watches throughout my days of going out and whatnot. But I remember back then, and huge credit to you, you were always in the involved in the forums. Like you said, you were seeking the feedback. And even to today, your name is always up and posting pictures, and I'm assuming you're reading the comments. You got a huge loyal following because of that, which is massive credit to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I post once a day for each brand in the groups, and I don't try and make it too sort of self-promote. Like I majority of the post, or I don't put links in the post. Sometimes I don't even put the name of my brand. And I also try and give back to the community and be involved. It's not just about taking; it's just about giving. So I do watch giveaways in some groups, and those who offer them, and sort of I'm a person who believes in giving back to the community that helped me get to where I am in terms of the brands. Yeah
that's fantastic. And I think most recently I saw the watch that you're wearing now. Actually, you were giving some of those away through Jody on YouTube, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I gave 3 of them away.
Yeah.
So they being sent out now. There were 3 winners there. I also gave one away in the budget watch group.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see. Giving back to the community, and I guess where I'm from, and I mean, a completely different thing. But that's kind of what we started this whole podcast for. Was we felt like we've learned a lot from people, and we wanted to be able to contribute and give back to the community in our own way and sense. So yeah.
Enjoy the hobby.
That's it. Find other ways as opposed to just buying all the time. It's another way. On the back of I guess your Straton, and inspiration for Straton, where you got there. I mean, it's like Justin said as well, and your design language for Straton is very well defined, right? And it's and in many ways kind of synonymous to how we collect watches personally, which is the design and aesthetic plays a bigger part than, say, stuff like, I don't know, in-house movements or those kind of things. Was that a conscious choice on your behalf?
Absolutely. I tell the story when I get asked sort of questions around this topic. I remember I was about a year into Straton, and I remember some professor of marketing at an American university. He was a member of one of the watch groups in Facebook, and he told me straight. He said, "You won't be in business in 2 years' time." He said to me, "Who do you think you are? Are you Coca-Cola or something that you?" He said, "First of all, just having your logo as not an actual name," he said, "no one's going to remember you." So my simple answer to him was, it was exactly the conscious decision I made to change my logo when I launched my first watch to my second one. My first watch, the Vintage Driver, had the full logo, Straton, and after that, I switched it only to the S. And I made that decision consciously because with the success of my first watch, which in my view is very tamed in terms of design, when you have a look from the first and then to the second, it's to the Curve Chrono, which was my second one, is a big jump. And even then the third, the Synchro, and then the Speciale, if you compare all those watches to the first, the design language it's much more, not extravagant, but it's just a lot more detailed. There's a lot more behind it. And I knew already that I wanted my design language to be able to speak for itself, and people actually recognize, hey, that's a Straton watch, without even seeing the logo or knowing who made it. I wanted the design to say what the watch is. And already in my second year, I got the first comment. A guy wrote, I said, "I didn't even have to look at the logo. I know it's a Straton watch."
Yeah.
And I've had that multiple times to this day, I've had that feedback. So I wanted that design language to be consistent, and I wanted that design language to speak for itself. And I think I can say I've accomplished that, and proved that professor of marketing wrong.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Like with your case shapes being, I think, the number one when you kind of look at, like you said, the Speciale and the Synchro. And then I think your early adoption of using so much color also helps there, because looking back into the archives of my brain, which sometimes doesn't go that far anymore. You had the purples and the greens and the reds pretty early before they became larger trends now. So
popular.
Yeah, that stuff is really prevalent in the hobby these days, and the purple that you've got also pops. But I don't remember there being too much else in the purple vein back then.
Exactly. Yeah, it was really early on with the purple. I mean, not the first people who made a purple watch, but I did see in the microband world there was a huge surge in color, especially purple, in the last sort of two years.
Yeah, you've predicted that one. Sweet. Well, on the back of that question, I'd like to ask, how do you decide what movement goes into each watch? Because you've got such a large catalog between the two brands now. What does that process look like?
I think it's a mixture of price, its thickness, of course, the design. I think, when starting off, when designing a watch, I do have to decide sort of right in the beginning, what movements do I want to use, what I have access to, because that decides if it's a three-hand or a triple calendar or a dive watch, or whatever type of design it may be. I think those sort of points, I then decide on. I've always tried to sort of cover the market, especially with Straton, in terms of movements. So in the early days, I sort of used to do 2 case sizes, 2 movements. My manufacturer didn't love me for that, because it made so many different possibilities. But it certainly did, I think, help me to cover the market in terms of, there's some people who care about movements and therefore want an automatic or a mechanical movement, and other people simply just don't care. They just like the look of the watch and want the watch. So that's why I've always sort of decided I should do a quartz and an automatic version with Straton. Not always, but when I could do it, I did it. I think my best seller to date with Straton is the Speciale, which is either the VK67 Mecha Quartz and the Valjoux 7750 Swiss automatic. Just over around 4,000 pieces sold to date.
Wow.
Of those.
Impressive.
Just out of curiosity, what would be the most in-demand colorway of that watch? Because you've got brown through to purple and teal and orange these days.
Yeah, it's brown and the brown off-white are the most popular, definitely. I would say out of everyone, the all brown, which has been on the market the longest out of the off-white and brown version, because that only came later as sort of a 15-piece limited edition, but it was slightly different. Obviously, I couldn't then remake it in mass if it was a limited edition, but I changed the coloring slightly and introduced that version. But I would say, the brown one is definitely. I think it reeks sort of retro styling that just completes the look. And I would say if you're on the fence about it is an awesome watch. I say it's really different. The customers always tell me I've never had so many compliments. People sort of ask about it, and at face value, sort of people who maybe don't know watches would think, I've had the Tag Heuer Monaco sort of, but I've got both. I've got a Monaco and I got the Speciale, and I've often posted them next to each other, and they're completely not alike. Completely different.
I think it's a bit, I guess if you're not really into watches, you might look at it and go, oh, it's a square case. So that's why they compare the two. But when you really look into it properly, then you know the difference. Just wanted to pick out what you said before about, having the various movements and the various cases and stuff. Was that a bit of a challenge initially to,
Absolutely.
I guess, in terms of a business, that's, I'm guessing your minimum order quantities and the costs would have gone up.
Absolutely. Because, what many people don't consider is as soon as you change the movement, you change the case height. And case minimum order quantities are, back then it was 300. Now it's up to 500.
Wow.
Because through COVID, a lot of the smaller factories have closed down. And now only sort of the larger players in the market are left. So you sort of conform to their minimum order quantities, which is 500. So I was doing 2 case sizes, both with movements that meant 4 different case molds. Case molds themselves are $500 each. And then you have to order 300 back then of each of those case.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess in a world of micro brands where a lot of specs are very similar, and I'm leaning more towards the dive watch space with this, it's the square and TV shape kind of case, what I refer to some of those as square case is stands out. So I'm assuming it's a whole different lot of variables and aspects that go into making that compared to your standard 40 to 42 dive watch that has an NH35 in it.
Absolutely. And I think also, it's also sort of risky in a sense because, dive watches are it's the biggest genre in the business in terms of volume. People can have 50 dive watches in their collection, but the chances of them having 50 chronographs in their collection is not likely. There are the chronograph lovers, but definitely the dive watches are much more loved than any other genre. And that's maybe sort of also why it's probably one of your questions that's still coming. How did Signum arise? But
we'll get to that. We'll get to that very soon. Very soon. Before we sort of we split this up as a bit of a couple of questions with Straton, a couple of questions with Signum to try and balance it up a bit. So before we wrap up Straton, so this was the question from one of our listeners. They said, look, it's clear your inspiration for Straton is linked to your love for cars. So this one's a bit of a light-hearted question. Well, just wanted to ask, what's your daily driver?
My daily driver at the moment, it's a 2005 Volvo V70R.
Nice.
Okay.
So it's I always had the love for it's my first Volvo. I bought it just under a year ago. And my wife calls it the hearse. Because it's the station wagon, so it's that block. It looks like a hearse.
Yeah.
But I always had a thing for them, and it's the R version. So it's a 2.5 liter 5-cylinder turbo. Nice. So it's got that 5-cylinder sound, and it's got 300 horsepower. And I took it on a road trip through Germany to Amsterdam to visit my parents a few months ago. And I got up to 270 on the autobahn.
Wow,
270 kilometers. Yeah, so it's still moves.
Oh yeah, nice. And I mean, it's funny because I'm looking through some of these photos of that model, and some lowered ones and some, with a bit of, I guess, like slightly modded ones. And it just reminds me of some of these old Commodores that we have in Perth,
Australia.
in Australia.
Yeah.
Yes, very much in the same vein. Justin, you've probably seen more of these around where you grew up.
Yeah, the Commodore was definitely a staple of wherever I grew. It was like an 18-year-old ritual. You got your little $1,000 run around car when you turned 16, 17 for your L's. And then when you get a new P plates, you go and buy the V8 version of whatever was out there back then. So, and I'm guilty of doing that myself. Not proud of it though. Not proud.
No. Australia love their V8s as well. I know that.
Yeah.
All right, well, perfect. I mean, I think that's a good launching point to go to Signum. We've got a couple of questions. The first one with Signum watches is, I think it's quite fair to say that your dials on Signum watches are probably the biggest attraction and talking point about your watches. Everyone looks at Signum, they always say, look at that dial. So I wanted to ask you, how do you go about selecting and making your dials?
Sure. I always had a thing growing up for minerals and rocks. I don't know if you had them in Australia, but you guys, I think, are sort of similar age. I'm 37 now.
Yeah, slightly younger, but yeah, around the same age.
Okay. So I don't know if you had them in Australia, but you could buy these sort of magazines, and then with the magazine, you there was like these little you could get with each magazine a rock, like a mineral, and it had its own special case. And you had these magazines with different things. Like one of them was like a car, and you had to buy all the magazines to get all the pieces to build the car.
Yeah.
And I had a whole collection of these mineral ones, and I always had a fascination with minerals. And so I just scroll the internet and put in Google Images or go to Pinterest and trying to find interesting but sort of doable, because not every mineral it's possible, or even from a cost perspective. And then once I found something interesting, I then sort of scroll the internet for sellers of the actual specimens in their raw form. So it's quite a time-consuming process to go through all of that. So I literally find the specimen that I want, and then I have it sent to my manufacturer. When I say manufacturing in China, there's not one factory who does everything.
Yeah.
Basically, how the system works in China is you have, when I talk about my manufacturer, they're literally only the assembler of the watch. Besides the assembling, they do the whole technical drawing portion. They do the coordination of all the factories who produce all the small parts. They coordinate everything, and then it gets sent in. So when it comes to the dials, there's one company who will actually drill the specimens. They drill like a cylinder,
like a core,
which is in a core, and then from there they slice like 0.5 millimeter sort of pieces. That's where you can get a lot of the breakages. So after that's done, it then gets sent to the actual dial manufacturer, who will place those dials on a backing, and then they sort of draw for the indices, and then they put the index or indices in place. Yeah, that's sort of the process of selecting those. The meteorite ones, I don't. The dial manufacturer, or the dial manufacturer that I selected, they had access to meteorite, so I wouldn't choose, which made that a bit easier.
Yeah, I think going on the back of dials there, two things for me. With the while you're on meteorite as well, I feel like Meteorite at the start of my collecting journey was a little bit harder to come by. Now in the microbrand space, it's definitely come down to this level. And Signum definitely stands out with this heat treatment that you go through. I think we're very used to seeing grey and very natural toned Meteorite dials. And it's cool that you found a different way to move it into something else unique to the brand again, which is, awesome.
Yeah, we were the first commercial brand to launch that kind of meteorite dial. That's an ionization process that it goes through, and an expensive mainstream brand, Debuthner. They launched six months later. They launched a heat meteorite dial after ours went.
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess on the back of heat meteorite as well, like the red mother of pearl, again, like another way of doing something that's made its way down into the micro space again. I feel like mother of pearl was very like an elitist kind of dial. When I remember thinking back to 2016, 17 days, you didn't really see it down here, but and that's an unreal, looking dial.
Yeah, I think it's always about sort of what can I do that it's not so necessarily that hasn't been done before, but the watch market is always looking for something different. Different, yes, but maybe I should retract that statement because it depends. It needs to be a combination. It can't just be completely different. Because a lot of the time I used to see, the market says they want something completely different, but then they still buy the Rolex Submariner looking dive watch, or the generic styled dive watches. People sort of a lot of the time fall back to what they're used to, and like yourself, you're Justin, with the square watches, getting out of your comfort zone. To make that leap, it's a little bit difficult for you. I understand, and also with buying watches online, sort of now slowly making that journey to feeling more comfortable with the process.
It's definitely a weird position to be in. At the start of my collecting, I wouldn't have thought I'd be looking at all these online watches and having them all at your kind of. The pick is there. No matter what you want, there's something out there. But I'm just quickly going back to dials. This purple, green, and blue, copper, turquoise. When you talked about doing a core drill and then you're shaving off 0.5 millimeter dials, what is the success rate on something like this? Because I'm thinking about stones and I've got toddlers as well, and I know what they're like with rocks and how easily they break and smash. What is the success rate with that?
Those turquoise ones are actually quite good because the minerals are stabilized prior to drilling. But say, for example, the azurite one, I made if people sign up to the Signum newsletter, they'll get taken on sort of a journey. And one of the beginning emails that I do send is sort of the process of making those dials, sort of what's involved. Some, like also the labradorite, some breakages are like up to 50%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's prior to making the complete dial. So I know it's broken. We try to stabilize it on a brass backing before it gets drilled for the indices and the indexes. So but it is, it's a lot of breakages. And I think also people, there's so much, I see it because I know that the costs involved, but there's so much value in what Signum brings to the market when one takes a look at the dials itself, because I know the work that it goes into and the cost that it goes into making those for the price that I sell it at. It should be much more.
It's such a good point to make with micro brands, and especially micro brands that really take the leap into something different and something interesting, like yourself. Is that the cost? I think too many times people fall into the trap of seeing a spec sheet and just going,
Yeah,
oh, like
exactly.
it should cost this much because it's got an NH35 or this and that. But like you said, you've just given us a snapshot, and it just shows you how much goes into making it. So yeah, it's very eye-opening.
Along with that trap, I think people fall into the comparison trap as well. Like, looking at the spec sheet over here, whereas in, like, if you look at Signum, you got some it's a dive watch, and people are going to try and make direct comparisons from brand to brand to see where their money's best spent. But you're not thinking about that back end process and how that special piece became what it is and why it is what it is.
But also, I think it's good we're talking about this now, because I can even compare it to Jody's last video on the Signum Siege. And he made the mistake himself. Jody and I we're very good friends, and I've been with him on his journey through. We sort of grew together. I think when I first started with Jody, he had less than 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah, cool.
And he fell into the same trap of looking at the specs on this watch and not considering the finer details that decided on the final cost of this watch. So the turquoise versions are $499, and then the full lume's $539, and then the heat meteorite is $569. And he himself also fell into the trap of, it's a Miyota 9015, it's a steel case, it's got a canvas strap, it should cost X amount. But there's one very big detail on that watch, and which he didn't consider is the high domed crystal on this piece. Just the crystal alone is $140. That's more than what a quartz whole watch costs. People don't take into consideration small. If I had flat crystal, flat sapphire on this watch, I could shave $100 off. But just because it was double domed box crystal, it was $140 just for the crystal. The case has clear DLC coating. Again, the process that people don't take into consideration, small details like that, is because with the DLC clear coating, still to this day, the clear coating, it's not, the process of doing that is not made for watches. The clear DLC coating is actually something that the steel and aluminum industry use in making windows of houses. They spray those so that it doesn't scratch. So the application and these machines are not the people who coat metal and that. It's these large machines and that, and it's not small, fine, If there's a speck of dust on a window in the coating,
it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
they're not going to redo the coating, but a speck of dust on a small watch, redo everything. There's like almost a 50% redo rate on the clear coating. It's so fine, and these are all cost factors that sort of, when people fall into the trap of looking at the specs and thinking, it's got a Miyota, it's a steel case, it should cost X, and it's got a canvas strap, it should even cost, less. But then again, you also look at the lume of the watch, and I mean, Signum has become somewhat synonymous with lume besides the dials. And just the lume application on this, buying the Superluminova in gram form from RC Tritech here in Switzerland, sending the lume to China, and making sure that they actually use that lume that you give them, because some manufacturers will just pocket that and use something else. So yeah, it's I hope people start to look at more, stop reading a spec sheet and just deciding a price from that.
Yeah, no, it's wonderfully put. And I think one of the things that you've done is when you reference the mailing list. I think I saw one on July the 2nd, which is about the dials. How exactly do we make dials? I feel like doing those things, keeping your buyers or potential buyers informed is such a great thing to do for the market in general as well, not just your brand.
Yeah.
It falls into the vein of Straton as well. Like I said from the start, you've been in the forums. You're involved in the feedback and you're listening. So it goes all the way through, which massive credit to yourself again. But
thank you.
Last question for Signum, and you kind of got us this one earlier. Was what was the I guess we know Straton. We know exactly where the thought and the idea of that came from. What was the reason behind creating that second brand? Because personally, I like having that kind of capsule collection of eggs, but I think Straton, I think chrono, cars, everything you want me to think. And when I think of Signum, it's dive watches, dials, and loom, like you just said. So what was the overall reasoning behind that decision?
Yeah, so I think it stems from 2 points. Firstly, I think Straton is so niche. Branching out and doing anything other than sort of the retro styling that my customers have been accustomed to will simply dilute and it won't do the brand any good. Secondly, there's maybe a few more points there in making the decision. Secondly, it was I wanted to be more creative outside of retro styling, and combining that with my passion for unique materials or minerals. That was the second point. And also I think from a business decision, the dive watch market or the sports watch market outside of chronographs is just so huge. Straton is so niche that I wanted to have a bit more potential and diversify, which is the reason why I started.
Yeah, I guess having those connections to manufacturers and what you needed to kick off that already would have been a good play there. Having connections
Absolutely.
already in the hobby.
Yeah, also from the perspective of, I moved away from Kickstarter in 2019. I saw that the market was sort of, viewing brands who were going back multiple times, or also new brands starting out on Kickstarter. There was just a lot of negativity around Kickstarter, I saw. And I wanted to move away from that. And that's the reason why, moving away from Kickstarter and then starting Straton Signum in 2020, it was self-funded. So it was risky, sure, but sort of with the knowledge that I built up with Straton, I thought it would be a calculated risk.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And last question for me. We know you've got your love of cars with Straton. Now, with Signum, is there any connection to the ocean or diving whatsoever there? Or is it just a passion project?
Not diving particularly, but, growing up, I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa. And, we used to go every weekend to a place called Amanus Onrus, which is like 1.5 hours away from Cape Town. And I used to bodyboard and did a lot of skimboarding.
Yeah, cool.
So I love the ocean. So I don't particularly dive, no. But yeah.
That's so funny you say that. I caught up with Praka for a coffee on Tuesday, and I'm going to be kid-free this weekend, and I've actually taken the opportunity to go bodyboarding off the coast of Perth. It's been a couple of years for me. I used to surf and whatnot, going up to a little place called Lancelin, where a friend of mine in school, his parents owned a little shack up there, so that was where we spent our school holidays. But so funny you bring bodyboarding up, because that's what I'm doing Saturday from morning till lunch. I'm super excited.
Awesome.
No bodyboarding and what do you call it, sea-based activity for me, because for work I'm on a boat floating in the middle of nowhere for work. Most of the time.
Oh wow!
Being sometimes being out there is it's just
if
synonymous.
I can ask, what are you doing on?
Is
it sort of fishing, or is it marine biology?
No, engineering. So yes, we're doing building stuff. building stuff out there. Yeah. So
Awesome.
that's the kind of work we do. Yeah. So yeah, whenever I'm on a boat, it's not usually for pleasure.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess this is where, we've come to the part of the podcast where we discuss something interesting that we've either seen or heard, whether it's watch related or otherwise this week. So yeah, Kyle, as our guest, is there anything you'd like to note?
No, I think good discussion, good talk. I'm glad to have met you guys, and yeah, thanks a lot for the opportunity to come on the podcast.
Yeah,
Welcome.
cool. I guess why something interesting. I watched a little documentary / movie on Netflix this week called The Deepest Breath. Have either of you seen that? It's come out the last 2 weeks.
No.
No?
So it was about freediving. So while we're talking about dive watches, I got a bit excited. I said, I'm
freediving.
super excited. It was competitive freediving. So apart from those people being incredible and bonkers to do what they do, I was hoping to see some watches, and no luck from my eyesight. But it's pretty crazy to see what the little wristwatch computers they use can do. And look like there was some overpowered stuff for case sizes and how thin they were. So that was pretty cool.
They digital?
Yeah, all digital. Yep, and all talking to the surface.
I saw the email for that Netflix sent me, because I'm a Netflix subscriber, so I do get notifications. I did see that. So when you said free driver, I remember the pictures of a person going down.
Yeah, unreal stuff.
I haven't watched it yet.
When the girl was coming back up, you can see the compression, like the pressure on her face. You can see her cheekbones start to turn white from the skin pressing so hard down. And then when they got into injuries and everything else, it was unreal documentary. Highly recommend anyone to go and watch it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in my industry, I've seen, divers go out there and stuff. It's usually, saturation diving and things like that. And yeah, free diving just seems like a whole nother level of scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess something interesting this week for the listeners. So Seiko is Seiko UK specifically. They're doing this thing. It's called a power design project. Basically what they're doing is they're going back in their archives and redesigning stuff as like concept, nothing actually they're going to release. So I thought this was a cool thing because so one of the designers, he's got a 3-year-old son, basically designed a kid's watch on the design of the Seiko tuner, the Marine Master. So, you're talking about a 1,000-meter professional diver, and he's taken that and basically made it into a kid's watch in the same shape, tuner shape, and he's made it, 200-meter water resistant and the lot. And I thought it's just the most over spec kids watch you'll ever see. Unfortunately, it's not for sale, but it's very cool conceptual piece, and maybe one day they might release it to market.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool to see. Like in Seiko, there's a lot of stuff that lacks personality in that space where it's so big, and it's cool to see something a little bit more humbled and market grabby towards people with children.
For sure.
Sweet. All right. Well, Kyle, I just want to say a huge thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure to chat to you. We'll pass over to you. Is there anything you'd like to add as a last point? And if not, plug your socials and anything else you'd want to chat about.
Yeah, maybe I can just mention my next sort of Straton watch. It's probably the most bonkers one I've ever done, which will come soon. There's going to be a lot of strong hate for it, and I'm prepared. I'm prepared for that. It's a play on a 70s piece. It was a brand called Direx. It's called the Cuff Buster case, which is it's extremely unique, and that's why I said I'm going to get, people are going to either absolutely hate it and they're going to shit all over it, excuse me, and the guys who like it will love it. And I think I'm willing to take this this risk because I think if any brand could pull it off in terms of styling, it fits sort of perfectly in Straton's sort of niche. I've already, with posting sort of renders and actual videos of the original watch, the strong hate comes through. But I've, as I said, developed a thick skin over the years, so I don't let that sort of stuff get to me. But it's called the Straton Sprint Cuff Buster, and yeah, looking forward to launching that in the next sort of 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, sweet. That and I think you posted a sample of the Sprint dial in brown as well. So yeah, it's cool to see a design from outside of Straton's wheelhouse kind of come into Straton's wheelhouse and have its own design play into it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, fantastic. Great to hear. That's a nice little scoop for our listeners. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Kyle. I just want to
thank you guys.
Yeah, we've had a great chat, and hope the listeners enjoyed every bit of it as well. I just want to let everyone know that we're now released in Apple Podcasts as well, so not just Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and hopefully expanding to other platforms very soon. Look, if anyone's got any questions for ourselves or even Kyle, send them through to us and we can pass them on. And also, we're going to have a special Q&A episode coming soon. So, so please go ahead. Send it to our social, send it to our Gmail. We'll gather it all up and hopefully answer most of your questions. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Justin.
Thank you for joining us on OverTime, the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
You can find us on our Instagrams at OverTime, the podcast, at Kinda Average Watches, and at Horology Capture.
We appreciate your support and value your feedback. If you have any questions, suggestions, or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please hit us up. We would love to hear from you.
Until next time.